What's up, you clever kitten? So what if I told you that there is a simple question that you can ask yourself as often as you want, and every single time you asked it, the answer you would get would be like the shortcut to exactly what it is that you should do that would be best for you and your life. And it's like a genie or a cheat code, or if like God himself was telling you the answer. That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Well, I believe that there is such a question, all right? I've tested this for many years, and without fail, it has worked every single time, okay? And every time I've shared it with other men, and they've tested it, they report back the same incredible outcome. You know what that question is? Here's the simple question. If I were about to do what I'm thinking about doing, will I respect myself more or less for doing it? Any version of that. What I'm about to do, after I do it, will I respect myself more or less? Another way to ask it is, the plan that I have, the thing I'm about to do, the way I'm about to go about this, will it create more self-respect, or will it take self-respect away from me? I've heard some gurus recently talk about how regret is a guideline. I think that's bullshit. Big part of why I think that's bullshit is because you're focusing on the negative, and the way our subconscious works is whatever we constantly mirror to it with our conscious mind, the subconscious will then work on that, create it, and outpicture it. Read Neville Goddard as an example. Read the Bible as an example. Cognitive behavioral therapy, which is, I would say, the very practical and rational and logical application of metaphysical things like Neville Goddard, like the Bible, is the exact same thing too, right? And to simply summarize it, what you focus on expands and grows. You've heard that before too, right? So when people say regret is a guideline, what you regret, that's what you shouldn't do. No. See, you have a built-in all-knowingness, a built-in divinity, I believe, that we're all born as chunks of God on earth, human God consciousness in human form. And what that actually empowers us with, one of the things that it empowers us with, is this built-in mechanism of self-coaching, if you will, self-leadership. And I don't care how intellectual you are or aren't, how educated you are or aren't, how experienced you are or aren't, how old or young you are, your gender, whatever. We all know what it feels like to respect ourselves and to not respect ourselves, to feel self-respect and to not feel it. We all know what that feels like. And I know this about you, deep down inside, actually not even that deep down inside, with just a simple little probe, you'll know what will make you feel more self-respect versus what will make you feel less self-respect. For you, in any variable, in any situation, in any circumstance. You know. Now the question is, will you listen? Well, that's a whole different story. That's a whole different video. But what I can tell you is that you can absolutely and dramatically transform your life and make yourself and your life not only shockingly unrecognizable to others, but more importantly, shockingly unrecognizable to yourself in a time frame shorter than you could even bloody ever imagine if you just simply and repeatedly ask yourself the one question. If I do what I think I'm about to do, will I feel more or less self-respect? And if you constantly optimize and chase self-respect, optimize towards, for, and chase self-respect, you will always make the best decision possible for yourself. A famous man once said, do the best you can where you're at with what you've got. And I think the one simple question that unlocks what is the best that I can do where I'm at with what I've got is the question, what action, what next thought, what next words, what next action will secure more self-respect for me? You can ask this question of yourself once a month. You can ask yourself this question of yourself once every 5 minutes. It's freely available to you. And every time you ask it, like magic, it's an infinite genie. It keeps producing the best possible answer for you from your higher self, God, the universe, whatever you ascribe to as being a higher power or your creative force, and so forth. It's limitless, it's infinite, and I don't know that I've ever found it to be inaccurate. See, I've shared this with people before, and they get sometimes frustrated, but always thoughtful, and it's this. When you ask people to give you something that you don't give yourself, like, for example, respect. So many of us, especially men, are so big on respect, right? We want to be respected by others. When you ask others to give you what you won't give yourself, do you know what you're being? You're being a cosmic beggar. Like, think about when there's a beggar walking down the street panhandling, right? And asking you for money. They're asking you for something they don't have. When you ask others for respect, when you ask the universe for respect, when you ask your industry, your co-workers, your colleagues, your friends, your wife, your girl, whoever, when you your kids, when you ask others for respect, but you don't give it to yourself through self-respect, you're being a beggar. Being a beggar is a hard life. And what's interesting is we can smell energy on other people. You know what I'm talking about. You can smell it on other people too. It's like we can just sense who we should take seriously and who isn't somebody we take seriously. And the reality of it is the people who respect themselves the most are the ones that we respect the most. Because that is how they show up. That is their energy. And so if you're asking others for respect, but you're not giving it to yourself, you're a cosmic beggar. You're spiritually bankrupt. In fact, this applies to anything and everything. If you ask others for something that you're not giving yourself, you're being a cosmic beggar. And so you're going to constantly keep creating more of that circumstance, more of that experience. However, when you chase self-respect and when you chase validation through the internal, not through external validation, objects, things, people, right? When you chase validation first and foremost internally through the doorway of self-respect, through the mechanism of self-respect, you will just begin to automatically show up in a way that is so shockingly different, elevated, that other people, you will notice, just simply start to respect you more. To him who doesn't have, even what little he has will be taken away, and to him who has, even more will be given unto him. That's a cruel passage in the Bible, isn't it? I always used to think there's so many different passages in the Bible that are so cruel. And then as I got older and I continued to study them, I realized just how simple they are. Profound and simple. Can be seen as cruel, but really not. Really not. When you have something, when you give yourself something already, more of it will be given to you from the universe. Self-respect, you'll get more respect. But when you disrespect yourself and give yourself only little respect, even what little people give you will begin to go away. You get what I'm saying? I'll wrap up with this. In life, I feel like there's a lot of content, teaching, and a lot of words said about integrity, right? How important it is to live life in integrity. For the most part, when I've heard any kind of content, teaching, sermons, coaches, whatever, about integrity, generally speaking, it is always about living in integrity with others. Don't lie, don't steal, 10 Commandment type stuff. But you know what I've thought, and I've found to be true for myself experientially in my own life? And in the few men who have tested it alongside me, they've come to the same conclusion and come back to me with the same feedback. If you live in ironclad integrity with yourself, you can't help but live in integrity with everything and everybody else. The message of integrity, living in integrity with others, is for those who don't live in integrity with themselves. But if you live in ironclad integrity with yourself, well, as the Bible says, what is done in secret, the Father will reveal and bless in the open. When you live in ironclad integrity with yourself, you are a source of integrity. You're no longer looking through a checklist of, am I doing the right thing or the wrong thing here? You don't ever have to. You are a source, a wellspring of integrity. You can't help but show up and behave and act in a way that is in integrity with everyone else when you live in ironclad integrity with yourself. And the best pathway, doorway, gate that I have found to that, self-respect. Asking yourself continuously and daily at all times, if I do what I'm about to do, if I behave in the way I'm about to behave, will I feel more or less self-respect? And you'll know, because the answer is always there. You are so much more capable than you give yourself credit for, and you have so much more wisdom inside you than you or anybody else has probably ever given you credit for. Another way that you can ask the question is, what can I do in the next 5 minutes, the next hour, the next 3 hours, the next day, the next week, the next month? What can I do in the next few hours such that at the end of those few hours, I will feel more self-respect? What can I do today so that in the evening, when it's all quiet and I'm alone, there's no masks to wear for anybody else, and it's just me and God, and I'm in the silence, and I lay my head on my pillow, I can lay down, replay the day in my head, and feel an elevated sense of self-respect because of how I showed up today, because of what I did today, how I did what I did today. My friend, if you chase self-respect, you'll become amazed at what else shows up in your life.